Perfect. All right. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this special public hearing of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District to order. In order to facilitate a nice, smooth meeting, we're going to do our best for public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some of the important guidelines and instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices, such as your cell phone. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make a public comment. After each agenda item, the chair will announce the public comment and the clerk will recognize any public attendees who indicate that they wish to speak. We do have members participating in Bakersfield, Fresno, and the Modesto offices. So today we're going to have a special public hearing for the review of the 2023-24 recommended budget. And we're expecting that to take a couple of hours, and then we will go to our regularly scheduled meetings. We're going to go ahead and start with a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Bessinger? Mr. Couch?
Here.
Ms. Escutia-Breton? Here. Ms. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. McCauley?
Here.
Mr. Mendez?
Here.
Dr. Pacheco-Warner? Mr. Pereira?
Present.
Mr. Preciado? Mr. Reyna?
I'm here.
Mr. Rickman? Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Dr. Sheriff?
Here.
Ms. Chuklian? Mr. Chiesa?
I am here, and if we could stand, and I'm going to ask the lonely member Robinson in the corner to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. So today we have a couple of new members joining us. We're very excited. We're back to a full contingent down in Bakersfield. We have Councilmember Gilberto Reyna, and maybe I give you a couple of minutes to just tell us a little bit about yourself, Gilberto, if that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I am happy to be here. I'm excited about being part of this organization. I have been a member of the City Council for the past 7 years. I recently got elected to another 4-year term, so I will be in the council for 11 years by the end of this term. I lived in Wasco since 1983, and so we did leave for a period of time to Bakersfield, but returned to Wasco where family and friends are. I've been a member of the elementary school board in the past and have served in many different committees in the city. And I just happy to be able to benefit our community and our county and, you know, through this service in this organization. 2 minutes is a long time for me, so I'll cut it right there.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to working with you. And in the Modesto office, someone that I serve on a couple other boards with, Councilwoman Rosa Escutia-Breton. Rosa, I'm not just introducing you. Hit that little button.
Rookie move. Rookie move, indeed. Thank you, Chairman Chiesa. It's a pleasure to be here. So again, my name is Rosa Escutia-Breton. I reside in Modesto. I was elected a council member for District 1 in 2020. Previous to that, I served in public policy for over 25 years in a local, statewide level. Large part of that time was serving as a gubernatorial appointee under Governor Gray Davis and under Governor Schwarzenegger, 2 different administrations doing public relations work. Transitioned my life from Sacramento to the Central Valley area, where I had an opportunity to be a planning commissioner for the city of Modesto, then served as a cultural commissioner for City of Modesto, then had an opportunity to be a planning commissioner for 7 years. So that I enjoyed my tenure there, and then moved on to the city council, where I currently dealing with a variety of issues we all deal with in our respective areas. Raising 2 children with my husband, who has a medical practice here in Modesto. I'm delighted to be on this board, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to just improve the life, the health and quality of life for our Valley residents, and in particular as it relates to air quality, definitely. And looking forward to collaborating with the staff and with my fellow board members to just do the work we got to do. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And if you've ever been to Stanislaus County, it's very unique. The city of Modesto and Stanislaus County actually share a building, and you can walk a hallway that's about maybe 200, 150 feet, and I can go visit Rosa and she can come visit me. So the board and the city council actually are in contact on a continual basis, and I think it makes for a much better relationship. So
You don't have armed camps like we do here?
no, we do not. So welcome aboard. And again, I know I've said it to both of you, but I got a little down in the first few months. It's very difficult to learn this process. You have staff available who are uniquely qualified to help you through that. And it's turned out to be one of the most rewarding committee assignments I've ever sat on. So we look forward to a long future with the two of you. Okay, now we're going to move on to item 5, public hearing for review and comment on the district's 2023-24 recommended budget. Going to hold the public hearing for the exclusive purpose of reviewing and providing the public with the opportunity to comment on the district's recommended budget. Set June 15th, 2023 for the public hearing to consider adoption. I'm going to turn it over to Samir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, board members, and welcome to our 2 new board members. Really excited to work with you. The entire team has wanted to quickly introduce this item in the budget process for the Valley Air District. This is the first of two required hearings, as was mentioned by the chair. And under the board's established policy, I wanted to step back a little bit first and just remind the public and the board of actually the first step in that process, which is holding the board's ad hoc budget subcommittee process. There was a meeting in April, and the point of that process is intended to help guide the development of the budget as we move forward through this public process. I want to express our gratitude and big thank you to the board members that were on that subcommittee. Those were Board Chair Chiesa, Councilmember Bessinger, Supervisor Robinson, Supervisor McCauley, Supervisor Rickman, and Dr. Pacheco-Warner. Thank you so much for the time invested in really guiding our staff and helping provide that policy guidance and developing today's recommended budget that we're happy to present this morning. After the budget subcommittee, under state law in May, your board holds the first of 2 public hearings, which is the hearing that we have this morning, with the exclusive purpose of allowing the public an opportunity to comment on the budget. And there is no action by the board today. So the purpose here is to provide this opportunity for the public, again, to hear the budget and to weigh in and see if they have any suggestions for the board. This hearing must be separate from the public hearing at which the district adopts the budget, and that's going to be in June. So we'll be returning to the board for action on the budget in June. So every year we go through a very detailed presentation about the budget and what we hope to accomplish in the coming year. And in accordance with the board's guidance and direction in the past in developing the budget, it's not just a list of financial figures and data. We actually go through a process of talking about what we accomplished in the prior year with the funding, the public dollars that were provided to the agency, with the goals that we had established in the prior year. It's a report out on that and making sure that we're putting those funds to good use and that we're serving the public per the board's expectations. We identify the priorities for accomplishing our public health clean air mission. And then ultimately, it's a process that reflects the belief of the board and the staff that we need to hold ourselves accountable to the public dollars that are entrusted to us and are accomplishing the work that is expected by the board and the public. And so we go through quite a bit of detail in laying out the way these resources are being used. Let me go over the agenda really quick for the presentation today. We're going to, again, do a look back in the prior fiscal year, share the guiding principles that again, guided the development of the 23-24 recommended budget. We'll go over the outlook in the coming year as far as fiscal and other issues, go over the budget highlights. Then I'm going to turn it over and I'll introduce the team that's over here that worked really hard this year with their teams to put together the budget. We're going to go over the significant projected workload in the coming year, and that's going to be presented by Morgan Lambert, our Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer. We're going to go over the efficiency and customer service that is a very integral part of our budget, what we do to do the work that we do efficiently and provide that high level of service. That's going to be presented by our Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer, Ryan Hayashi. Then we'll talk about the hundreds of millions of dollars that are in this budget for clean air investments through our grant programs, talk about the spending plan that's an essential part of this budget for the emission reduction grants that we provide. That's going to be presented by our third deputy, Shiraz Gill, Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer here. And then we'll turn it over to Ryan Kincaid and Ryan Buchanan. Ryan Buchanan is our Director of Administrative Services, and Ryan Kincaid is our Controller. They're both critical and essential elements of putting this budget together. They're the ones who really put together the financial piece with their great team, working with our directors here, and they're going to go over the actual revenue and expenditure details of the budget. And so I will start now by just quickly covering over the next few slides the achievements over the prior year and how these funds were used to help move forward our public health clean air mission. We, again, this last year, I'm happy to report, had major and successful focus on providing excellent customer service to our regulated sources and the general public. This is something that the board has always made a high priority, front and center to what we do, delivering on the various programs and expectations of the public, whether it's permitting, enforcement, the grant programs, and all the other very essential services that we provide. We were able to deliver in that once again. Of course, we're a clean air agency, and our goals here are all related to improving air quality, reducing air pollution. Happy to report again that we have fulfilled and exceeded all of our state and federal mandates in a timely fashion. We've met our goals. For NOx, we're 100% above target. We've continued to adopt innovative measures that continue to reduce these key sources of emissions. VOC reductions are above target, PM 2.5. And in fact, you'll see continued work in that as part of the regular agenda. We continue to engage effectively with our residents, businesses, local community groups, and other stakeholders throughout the Valley to get feedback and overall support the strategies that the board puts together and that you hear about on a regular basis, and also support the advocacy efforts, because as we all know, the Valley continues to face significant challenges in being underserved in many ways. We go to Sacramento, we go to DC, and we continually look for ways to bring resources into our region to help us with our mission and improve the quality of life for our residents. We've effectively implemented and enforced all of our adopted rules and regulations. We have a strong permitting team, a strong enforcement team. We move forward, when the board adopts these rules, that's really where the work starts, and you'll hear more about that later in terms of the various programs that we have in place. And overall, we have efficient programs with low administrative overhead. We're consistently the lowest when it comes to the amount of time and resource it takes to deliver on the various programs that we have in place. I'll focus a bit more now on just the air quality progress that we continue to see in the San Joaquin Valley. This is very important, clearly, to the board in terms of tracking what do these investments bring in terms of improving air quality. And the fact of the matter is, and then the happy report here on this side of things, is that we do continue to see major reductions in not only air pollution, but also related ozone and PM 2.5 concentrations. And this is something that, again, we work very hard to report on, because we continue to ask residents and businesses to invest even more on reducing air pollution. So it's really important that we can show what comes when you do make those investments. And so we've seen an over 90% reduction in days over the 84 part per billion standard. I'm not going to go through all these figures here, but very significant reductions in the days that we see exceeding these standards that we're working very hard to meet. And hopefully this year, outside of wildfire impacts that obviously have been a big issue for us in recent years, and we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see what happens this summer. It's a continued challenge going into every summer season. The Valley may be able to demonstrate attainment of the 84 part per billion standard. The plan was adopted back in 2007, and here we are in 2023, hopefully being able to show that after all that hard work, we can actually meet that 84 part per billion standards. That is something that we've made very significant progress towards. This last winter, as you heard in actually the last board meeting, we've seen seen quite a bit of progress in winter PM 2.5. The good moderate days are continuing to go up. The unhealthy days are continuing to go down. 0 exceedances of the 65 microgram standard for the 3rd consecutive year. This is a standard that we used to see actually many days during the wintertime over that 65 level. And now for 3 years in a row, we actually didn't see a single day that was over that standard. So this is very significant progress, even while we work very hard to continue to meet standards that are very difficult to meet. Last year, we also saw significant implementation and progress towards fulfilling requirements for what we call attainment plans under the Federal Clean Air Act. This is one of the core functions of the agency and really sets the framework for moving forward with various strategies that we have in place. So the board, through a lot of public engagement and technical work that was done here by the staff, cooperation with CARB, developed the 2022 ozone plan for the 2015 ozone standard that was adopted in December of 2022. We implemented the various measures that are in the PM 2.5 plan that the board has put into place, implemented various rule projects related to boilers, steam generators, internal combustion engines, flares, refinery monitoring, variety of measures that the board has put into place last year. Significant progress in moving forward with the implementation of those. You're going to hear later in the year work being done to continue to review potential measures involving conservation management practices and dust mitigation with respect to agriculture, the leak detection and repair rules, crude oil production sums. So the work continues under these plans to move forward with these various measures. We continue to implement the only of its kind strategy anywhere in the country, the phase out of agricultural open burning by the end of next year. So this is by 2025, that's by January 1st of 2025. The total tonnage of material burned in the valley set a new record low in 2022. And I'll say that again, new record low of ag open burning last year through the implementation of this multifaceted strategy, including adopting enhancements to the grant program. That's a critical part of this program to focus more on the smaller agricultural operations and really make sure that we're able to support the most difficult portions of this phase out, which are the smaller businesses and the smaller family-owned farms that are now in the last leg of this phase out. And we continue to provide regular updates to the board on various Clean Air Act issues, contingency measures, the mobile source advocacy and issues related to addressing those sources, and a variety of other very important Clean Air Act issues. Last year, quite a few developments in that area. A little bit more on PM 2.5 plans and contingency. We've made significant progress in developing updates to the plan. This year, we're actually working on revisions to that plan that will be coming back to the board later in the year. We are continuing to work on the contingency requirements. In fact, later on in the regular meeting for today, you will be hearing more about contingency, working with EPA to support development of new guidance and hopefully having a pathway for addressing these requirements. We also worked quite a bit. You hear the term AB 617, and you sort of get used to throwing that term around. And at first, you maybe wonder what that means. But AB 617 is a major program that this board has moved forward with a lot of energy, a lot of deliberate intent in terms of working in communities and really learning from this program of how we can improve when it comes to community engagement. Since 2018, there's been 19 communities statewide that have been selected on this program. We have 4 here in the Valley, and that involves developing committees, steering committees, working on plans for air monitoring, working on plans for emission reduction programs, and the board having adopted now what we call SERPs, which are community emission reduction programs in each of these communities. We're working very hard to implement these programs, and the board on an almost monthly basis takes action to move forward with various key programs, and all of this to really help inform how we can better support all of our communities here in the San Joaquin Valley. So there's been quite a bit of effort through this program in really learning from these communities and broadening out programs, as the board has just recently done with various, just for example, the air purifier program that we're launching here very soon in the next couple of weeks to provide air purifiers ahead of the wildfire season. These are all programs that have been developed in partnership with communities and working very closely to address concerns that we hear in the communities. a huge effort and priority of this board has been in securing funding, as I mentioned before, and working very hard to bring these resources to the Valley. Happy to report that we continue fighting for this region in partnership with our stakeholders here to bring these resources to the region. You're going to see an exciting item again later this morning related to that advocacy and the applications that we also put forth when opportunities open up. This is a list of the various funds that we have included now here in the budget, and the success that we've been able to achieve when it comes to receiving new funds. Everything from farmer funds to community air protection funds from the state, Carl Moyer funds. I'm not going to go through the entire list here, but I think you get the picture that there's quite a bit of resources at both the state and federal level that we've been able to successfully bring to the region, and then develop programs and make available to those here that we can partner with on these clean air projects, which is a great segue to this slide, which really tries to capture over the next couple of slides the work that we actually did last year to roll out these various programs and establish these public-private partnerships with residents, businesses, agencies, and others to actually implement these clean air projects. Everybody from agriculture, the various growers in the Valley, and about $130 million invested. By the way, all these programs are matched, as you can see there on that second bullet, with, in this case, $600 million this last year. So quite a bit of return on the investment in terms of bringing that collective total, well above the public dollars that are invested. Working with growers on zero emission ag utility terrain vehicles, businesses on trucks, EV charging, developing the electric vehicle charging network and responding to the major transitions that are going on in that sector. Working with public agencies on advanced transit and clean vehicles, and continuing to promote the various funds that are available with our cities, counties, universities, and other public agency partners. And then building out our heavy duty alternative fuel infrastructure. So as we see transitions going on with heavy duty trucking to electric and other technologies, continuing to build that infrastructure out has been a major priority of the board. $53 million invested alone in alternative to ag burning projects. That's a very significant investment. It reflects the transitions that I talked about earlier with the phase out of open burning. That's 80,000 acres worth of funding. We track, as you can see here, we track it down to the ton in terms of how much, in this case, wood was not burned and actually chipped, incorporated, and other what we call beneficial reuse practices that were used in that program. Part of that was also expanding the chipping fleet. And so there were $4.5 million this last year alone that were deployed in support of expanding that capacity. As you can see here, diesel yard trucks going to electric trucks. There's such a broad range of things that we can do when we get creative and work with our partners here in the Valley. Working with dairies on electrifying their feed mixing operations, locomotive projects, using the VW Volkswagen mitigation funds to replace school transit and shuttle buses with electric buses. We actually operate the statewide program in that case, just given the success that we've had in implementing these types of programs. We're the statewide administrator of that particular program. And then working on the commercial lawn and garden program, and that's actually a major opportunity in the coming year, and you'll hear more about that later. And one of the key aspects of our program is actually working directly with our residents on empowering residents to be a part of the solution and help clean up the air. And so we offer a variety of different programs that help in bringing in partnership our Valley residents. One of these key programs is the $12 million that we invested in the Tune and Tune Up program. I know a lot of the board members here have been to these events and continue to be very supportive of this effort. Very successful program. We actually leverage that to also promote other programs that we have available to residents. About $7 million replacing vehicles, and we use those events also to support the vehicle replacement program through our Drive Clean in the San Joaquin program. $17 million in rebates to residents for nearly 6,000 electric vehicles. This is a very popular program and one that we're seeing some major uptake in terms of residents that are now considering and purchasing these vehicles. We continue to support van pooling. There's $7 million that we provided just to replace and to assist residents in upgrading the residential wood burning, basically getting rid of wood burning devices and upgrading to natural gas or electric units. And then the lawnmower program has been immensely popular in providing vouchers to residents to upgrade to electric mowers and other trimmers and other types of landscaping equipment. Now, the board has placed a huge priority on public outreach and engagement. We can't do what we need to do here in the Valley with respect to air quality and cleaning up the air without strong support from the public, good understanding from the public on the complexity of the air quality challenge, why it's important to reduce emissions, what the public health implications are, and how you can protect yourselves when you have issues, say wildfires, and you have episodes of poor air quality. There are a lot of facets to our program, and once again, this last year, I'm happy to report that we implemented a comprehensive campaign in both English and Spanish, and actually other languages, as we've worked in different communities. We have the Healthier Living Schools program. It's one of the core programs that the district operates. It's the only program of its kind. And I talk to a lot of people across the state and the country on different things that people are doing. There is no other area that's doing anything close to what we're doing with our Healthier Living Schools program. We have many, many thousands of students and parents and administrators and others that are benefiting from the clean air information and tools that are provided through that program. We provide an app and many other tools through social media and other avenues for providing accurate and timely air quality information. We have grant funding awareness campaigns. It's multifaceted. We operate at different levels. A lot of it is everything from grassroots up to paid advertising, TV, radio, other mechanisms for trying to get the word out about what's available to residents and what we could be doing together to improve air quality. We've got summer tailored campaigns, winter tailored campaigns. The issues are different throughout the year. We continue to enhance social media penetration with everything that we try to do. And then community involvement. We're out there in the communities. We just, for example, with Earth Day related events, we were literally at dozens of events. We set up booths. We have staff that go up and down the valley and wherever we hear of an opportunity are out there just talking to residents and providing information. The board has also placed a really high priority on the annual report to the community that we put together. It's a very extensive and understandable and interesting read. It's a little bit less dense than some of the information that may sometimes come out depending on what's going on. And you're going to hear that, or you can see the draft report a little bit later here in the year. We also, one of the great suggestions that we had actually here from Mayor Preciado was to have that report available in Spanish. So we have a full translated, glossy, really shareable report available every year that has been a big hit in terms of getting the information out to the public. And then we do quite a bit of media partnership. We bilingual partnership throughout the valley, events, interviews, press. We do a lot of press events. Really just trying to get the word out about what partners are doing throughout the valley and trying to bring attention to those positive efforts. Quite a bit of just proactive measures throughout the year. One of the big things that the board has placed a huge priority on has been prescribed burning and really promoting better land management to help avoid large and just extreme wildfires. This is something the board talks about on a regular basis. We coordinate better than ever with our county public health officers. We're in regular contact with them on ways to partner and get their input on various things that we do. We also continue to launch just better tools on the wildfire issues. In this case, the Wildfire Smoke Clean Air Centers program to deploy portable air cleaners in facilities to help during these events. And as a sort of a complementary and a related piece to that, we launched the Residential Clean Air Rooms program. That's where we actually provide these air purifiers at no cost to residents. So you can set up in your home a clean space whenever you see these wildfire issues. And actually, very soon we'll be launching the next round of that, the next valley-wide program with $1 million that the board approved, and just a little announcement there kind of related to that. We also support local scientific air quality research. The board has always placed a huge priority on this. You'll hear more about that later in the context of the new year. But we do want to make sure that our plans and rules are based on sound science and are always looking for ways to support that work. We developed and launched our strategy to transition our fleet to 100% zero emission vehicles by fiscal year 25-26. We are unique in really trying to set the bar as an agency-wide to go to electric vehicles. It is a transition, so we have purchased 31 new vehicles thus far. We're in the process of purchasing additional vehicles. We've installed charging stations. We've expanded charging stations throughout the Valley's regional offices and continue to basically make sure that we can make this transition happen while also ensuring that, we're doing it in a measured way that we can accomplish everything that we need to accomplish, obviously over a large, geographic region that we serve. And so far it's been working really well, but it is something that we have to keep transitioning over time as we continue to purchase vehicles and have experiences with that transition. So overall, we do like to consider ourselves and are happy to report that we do set the bar when it comes to excellence in government, whether it's productivity, permits issued, inspections, other key programs, the grants that we administer, the regulatory measures that I covered. Our service is top notch. We're accessible. You can talk to a person here when you have an issue. You can reach management directly if there's ever a concern. This is just something that we take a lot of pride in, just being accessible to our residents. And even through the COVID pandemic, just a little bit of just looking back on that, we're able to provide all of our services even during the difficulties that we all experience there. We have a high degree of staff morale and job satisfaction here through the STAR work culture that we have in place, and just empowering our staff and just working really closely with them and keeping this a really fun environment for them in terms of just having events and team building, and have a very cooperative working relationship with the Employees Association here. And just as another quick little, just aside, but related to just, the excellence in government, we were awarded this last year best practice in air pollution control from a National Association of Air Agencies for the Residential Wood Smoke Reduction Program. It's just one example of how we set the bar and are just actually presented on this award. And it really is amazing just how much this region is doing compared to what other regions and states as a whole are actually doing on these various efforts that we have here. Just to continue that theme, in this slide here, we successfully completed a number of independent program audits and were recognized this last year. You heard last month CARB's audits of our state-funded grant programs. This is the biggest audit that CARB has ever conducted of these grant programs. We're regularly audited on these. It was actually a 10-year period and covered many, many hundreds of millions of dollars of expenditures. We had a successful clean audit with no deficiencies, and as you heard from CARB themselves during the meeting, very positive comments about the implementation of these programs. The same side of it, on the fiscal side, the Department of Finance also did a 10-year look back this last year of our grant programs, clean audit, no deficiencies, basically the highest possible audit you can get. On the financials, we also have our third party, the independent firm that comes in and takes a look at our programs, state and federal, and again, maintained our status as a low risk auditee, basically meaning that we have strong internal controls and oversight. Once again, had a clean audit, and were awarded, again, for, I think it's the 7th or 8th year, I should know this, 8th year in a row. 9th year in a row. Thank you, Ryan. The Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the GFOA, which is a national association that provides that recognition. So now I'll transition to the budget's guiding principles, and some of these themes are carrying forward, but again, providing in the coming year adequate resources for providing that excellent customer service, continuing to provide expedited permit and grant processing, just given how critical it is for our permitted facilities and businesses to receive these required permits, to get these grants out in time. You can miss major opportunities when you don't, and so this is a very high priority for the district in getting these programs to be well positioned the way that they are, satisfying our various legal mandates and obligations in a timely and cost-effective fashion, having full public accountability and participation. So again, having workshops and interpretation and all these different things that we do to make sure that we have good public engagement, having resources in place for that, having an effective public education outreach campaign. It does take resources to be able to get the word out. We have over 4 million residents, 25,000 square miles, nearly 60 cities here. It's obviously a large geography and takes quite a bit of work and ongoing work to really try to get that message out. Supporting strong sound science and modeling and just the scientific foundation of what we do is a major principle in developing the budget, and then continuous improvement and innovating. So it takes resources to innovate. It takes resources to install new technology and you get a dividend from that. There's a return on that investment that far exceeds, the investment. So that is something that we continue to look for opportunities for in the budget. And we do employ here, and I'll just remind the board on the process that we follow, a zero-based budgeting process. And so you probably heard that term before. Not many public agencies use this process to do budgeting. And what we do here is every department head goes through a process every year. It starts back at the end, actually, of the last calendar year, where we go back and evaluate, starting from zero, every mandate, every requirement, every goal that we have in the coming year, and then build up. What do we have to do in the coming year? And then what are the resources that it takes after efficiencies, after looking for opportunities in terms of consolidation or the way that we actually structure ourselves to actually get that job done in the coming year. And it's actually a very educational process. We actually find a lot of opportunities for investing in technology and other things as we do that evaluation during the budget process. And so overall, we want to provide the means to accommodate also for state and federal budget uncertainties. Every year there's always just different factors to consider, whether it's a state budget, federal budget, and so we definitely try to think about those issues and make sure that we accommodate that. We want to minimize red tape and administrative costs. Again, back to the efficiencies that we're looking for. Keep our fees as low as possible. We don't want to have fees be higher than they need to be, and we do have the lowest fees, relatively speaking, across the major air districts. And part of this also is, just when it comes to revenues and resources, advocating for resources and implementing. You hear efficiency quite a bit because we do pride ourselves on looking for as much efficiency as we can to streamline our processes here. So what is the fiscal outlook for the coming year? Just want to give you a quick summary of this. Our stationary source operating revenues, which are a big part of where we get our revenues, they also are stable. So there is no proposed increase in permit fees in this budget. So we are proposing a budget that's not relying on increased fees in this coming year. Our state and federal operating grants are projected to be stable, whether it's the 103 or the 105 grants or state subvention. There's no change in that. So that's a good thing. And we do see, though, in the coming year, quite a bit of funding coming in, as I alluded to earlier, when it comes to our different grant programs. With that comes quite a bit of workload. So you've got to, you get money, you've got to do quite a bit of work to get that money out the door and meet all these various requirements that are expected of those revenues. So you'll see that as we talk about the budget, but there are administrative funds that are available through these various state grants that are used to offset the cost of implementing those programs. And there is, some state budget uncertainty in the coming year. I think everybody here has been watching the state budget here play out. The governor just recently released the May revise. There's a Senate proposal. Our budget overall doesn't largely depend on those revenues, and the portions that do. So far, it's looking good on that side of it, but we'll, something that we'll continue updating the board on, and but it is something we definitely take a look at as part of the budget. Just want to summarize now a bit about what we see as some of the strategic challenges and opportunities in the coming year. Obviously, as a clean air agency, continued efforts to reduce air pollution is something that is going to be central to what this board does in looking ahead. For example, there are some remaining measures under our PM 2.5 plan, fulfilling those commitments and moving forward with adopting those measures, implementing the new ozone plan. There's some things that, as I mentioned before, that are in the works related to these various plans, developing an updated plan. This is for the 2012 standard and other issues that may need to be addressed. The maintenance plans for both ozone and PM, this is actually on the positive end of the planning process. So you adopt maintenance plans when you actually attain a standard, and then you basically put these plans in place to make sure that you stay in attainment. So we do think that, for example, with the one hour ozone standard and there's an updated PM10, there's some maintenance plans that need to be put into place as well. So that's going to be something the board will be hearing about. And then working with Carbon EPA to get our plans approved and address Clean Air Act requirements. That's an ongoing engagement. There's always updated policies and considerations when it comes to receiving that approval from EPA. So that's going to be a huge part of what we need to think about in the coming years, making sure that engagement continues to be effective with these various oversight agencies. And then research. There's, as we continue evolving our strategies and air quality improves and air pollution is reduced, it continues to be important for us to understand, what all the factors are, so we can keep focusing our strategies on things that are most effective at actually addressing the air quality problem. And that's going to be something that we think about in the coming year as well. Contingency requirements, we pulled this one aside a little bit because this is one of the more difficult sets of requirements under the Clean Air Act. You'll be hearing about this a bit later in the day. That is something that is going to be an ongoing challenge for us in terms of making sure that we meet those requirements and are able to address the various components under the Clean Air Act. And then administering these innovative and quite expansive incentive programs in the coming year. There's new state and federal funding opportunities that we need to really be thinking about in the context of some of the federal funding packages that have come out. Also, the state funding continues to include, even with a difficult budget year, how do we maximize the use of those state funds? How do we make sure that we have, for example, farmer funds available? How are those, just the various funding sources that are out there with respect to the state and federal side of things? We're advocating, for example, very heavily under the Inflation Reduction Act funds and other funds to make sure that Valley partners, the Valley stakeholders here can actually access these funds and bring them to the region in ways that help with our mission here. We continue to push for additional reductions from mobile sources in their state and federal jurisdiction. That's because the majority of the air pollution in the San Joaquin Valley is attributable to the variety of mobile sources. And so there is ongoing work to hopefully accelerate the turnover of various fleets through funds and other mechanisms to help with our problem here, so that we're not penalized due to what largely is sources that are outside of our control. I mentioned the air quality initiatives out there, working with Valley communities. So in the coming year, just thinking about ways to continue building on the successes that we've had recently in engaging with residents and looking with cities and community organizations, and just trying to figure out ways, and counties, of course, to bring these programs at the community level in ways that are impactful to residents, and that they can see the benefits of that. And then just looking for ways. I love the concept of really striving to set the example for other agencies through our Star Work culture. And we've continued to just do things, whether it's telecommuting or fleet transition, or things that we do to build up the motivation, the morale of our team here. I think these are all great ways to make the Valley as a whole hopefully benefit from those sorts of efforts. And then, of course, the public education and outreach. I mean, this is just an area where you can never take your foot off the pedal. We always have to look for new ways to try to be impactful to our residents and really get them engaged on various issues, tools, the wildfire impacts. We're already doing, for example, now education and outreach on just thinking ahead to the summer season, what you can be doing to think about protecting yourself. And the air purifier program is going to be launched here very, very shortly. So just examples of the things that we do. So I'm just going to give you a quick set of budget highlights before we turn it over to the team here, and just talk about where the budget is as a whole. So the total operating budget is up 1% here with the proposed budget. That does reflect the third year of the labor agreement that your board approved with the Employee Association. It's full year funding of some recent position enhancements that the board approved, and these are funded by state revenues related to these various programs that we operate, and does include a 6% salary savings through position control that reflects various turnover, but also our ability to shift resources where they need to be put based on the cyclical and other workloads that can come in. The significant workload that we project in the coming year it is basically essentially absorbed through various efficiencies that we want to put into place, that are putting into place. There's program flexibility, again, in responding to different work that comes in. So we do, and you'll hear about this more in a lot of detail, are able to absorb this work. There's strong public education and outreach in the coming year. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of resources that we want to deploy to continue to get the word out about various things. The budget does include the expeditious administration and use of quite a bit of local, state, and federal funding. There's $650 million in the budget for various pass-through grants, again, in our various emission reduction incentive programs. There's funding in the budget for Valley-based scientific efforts, and overall, it's a balanced budget with adequate reserves and contingencies per law and per board policies. So overall, very happy to present a balanced budget. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Morgan Lambert, again, our Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer, to talk about the workload that we anticipate in the coming year.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Next year, the district is expecting significant workload across all our major programmatic areas. In the next few slides, I'll present an overview of that workload. The proposed budget contains $650 million in appropriations to implement new and existing voluntary incentive grant programs, the specifics of which Shiraz will talk about a little bit later under the incentive spending plan portion of the presentation. But in terms of workload, administering these programs and dispersing this level of incentive funds will require extensive work to identify and solicit projects, to conduct outreach, to develop additional online application portals to enhance access to the program, to ensure eligibility and compliance with the applicable regulations and program guidelines, to evaluate, quantify, verify the emission reductions that are coming from the program. And we'll also be working to develop and implement new community identified programs adopted under the AB 617 Community Emission Reduction Programs, which your board has approved. Each of these programs must be developed and then submitted to CARB and get CARB's approval before we can actually expend the funds, the state funds for these programs. The federal budget includes numerous substantial clean air funding opportunities being made available through the implementation of the Inflation Reduction Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and other strategies contained in the Building a Better America initiative. These opportunities are being administered through almost every office in the federal government, and the district is working aggressively to pursue all relevant opportunities to bring substantial clean air funding to the Valley. These efforts include directly applying for funding opportunities for which the district is an eligible applicant, and also building and supporting regional and industry-specific partnerships and coalitions that these opportunities, to make sure that these opportunities are taken advantage of here within the Valley. This work will require substantial effort in providing guidance as these opportunities are being developed, tracking opportunities as they are released, and researching new opportunities and planning for and submitting proposals for funding. In response to EPA's reversal on their prior proposed approval of the plan for the 2012 PM 2.5 standard, the district and CARB have begun working on an updated plan for this standard. The plan is scheduled to be brought to your board for consideration by the end of 2023. The district will need to work to identify, assess, and craft new and feasible cost-effective measures. Additionally, new modeling analysis, attainment demonstrations, and other plan elements will need to be developed with CARB. The plan may also include additional analyses in support of the 2006 PM 2.5 standard plan as necessary to secure final approval of that plan. To secure final approval of the district's particulate matter and ozone plans, the district and CARB are working to address evolving contingency measure requirements in light of recent court rulings. EPA is currently working, or is currently in the process of finalizing their guidance on contingency measures. And the district will be working with CARB and EPA to develop an approvable contingency package. In addition, there will be significant effort required to develop and implement maintenance plans for standards which the district has already attained. With the adoption of the 2018 PM 2.5 plan and the 2022 ozone plan, the district is now in the process of implementing the commitments contained within those plans. Extensive public engagement will be necessary over the next year as we move forward with developing the new control measures included within the plan. To date, the EPA has approved the portions of the 2018 plan for the 2006 PM 2.5 standard and is in the process of reviewing the remaining portions of the plan pertaining to the 1997 PM 2.5 standard. Over the next year, the district, in collaboration with CARB, will be working to prepare additional technical analyses and amendments, if necessary and as necessary, to secure final EPA approval of those portions of the plan. The district, along with a coalition of stakeholders, will also need to work hard at the state and federal level to secure and administer the incentive funding that's necessary and called for under these plans to get the significant amount of emission reductions needed from mobile sources that are within and under the state and federal control. In the next fiscal year, the district plans to complete numerous exceptional event documentations to demonstrate that pollution caused by wildfire and windblown dust events We're beyond the scope and control of the district's comprehensive and significant air quality management program. Each submittal takes thousands of hours of data gathering, analysis, and modeling to be able to justify to EPA that these high pollution episodes should be excluded from our official attainment demonstrations. Documentation will be necessary for clean data findings for the upcoming deadlines of the federal particulate and ozone plans and standards. New state and federal mandates will also require the expansion of both the federal regulatory as well as the community level monitoring networks that we have here at the district. There will also be an emphasis at the state level to conduct additional air monitoring for prescribed burn projects, and the district will play a role in these efforts to help support additional forest management practices across the state and within the valley. The district is faced with significant and evolving workload associated with the implementation of AB 617 mandates. When a new community is selected under AB 617, it represents a multi-year commitment to working with the community on monitoring and emission reduction plans. And we're in the midst of doing that right now with the 4 selected communities that we have here within the valley. The district must plan, install, and operate the community air monitoring networks in the communities of Arvin, Lamont, South Central Fresno, Shafter, and Stockton. The district must work with community steering committees in those same areas and implement the numerous measures that were included within the community emission reduction programs. In addition, ARB, in consultation with air districts across the state and residents, will also consider additional impacted communities in year 6 of the AB 617 program to potentially undertake community air monitoring and emission reduction programs. It will be important that the district, as we've done in previous years, provide sound air quality information and analyses to help the state inform their selection process that they go through. AB 617 also required air districts to update or to adopt an expedited schedule for the implementation of what's called best available retrofit control technology. The district is in the final stages of implementing the BARC schedule adopted by your board back in December of 2018. The state has also adopted a new annual emissions reporting rule that the district is phasing in the implementation of currently. The rule will dramatically increase the number of facilities required to report annual emissions inventory data and also the amount of details that's required with such reporting. The district must also now compile and report emission control technology determinations to the new statewide clearinghouse for toxic BACT and BARC for stationary sources. So this is something that we've historically done in-house and had our own clearinghouse for, but now we're also required to facilitate and work with the state and get it submitted to the state for their compilation as well. And lastly, the district is also planning on convening Valley AB 617, Valley AB 617 communities and engagement partners with the goal of providing a platform to highlight successes, discuss opportunities for growth, and connect residents to the clean air solutions in the next fiscal year. Lessons learned will help guide the district's AB 617 efforts moving into the future. The district collects point source emissions inventory for thousands of facilities in accordance with the district rules and state regulations. In the next fiscal year, the district will see a significant increase under the state criteria pollutant and toxic emission reporting regulation, with over 3,000 facilities now expected to come online under that program. In addition, a number of area-wide inventories are also scheduled for update in the next fiscal year. The district is also currently in the midst of a multi-year phased-in approach to comprehensively reassessing the air toxic risk for all Valley facilities under the state's air toxics hotspots program. We are currently in phase 4 of this process with approximately 1,000 facilities requiring review and analysis in the coming fiscal year. In 2022, the state made additional amendments to their emissions inventory criteria and guidelines reporting regulation, or ECR. These amendments have increased the number of reportable substances from about 700 to now over 1,700 substances, and have made other technical and administrative changes. These amendments will significantly impact the inventory and AB 2588 workload for the district and the facilities that are subject to these new regulations. As we have implemented the PM 2.5 plan, the ozone plan, and BARC commitments adopted by your board, There are several new and existing rules which have been recently adopted by the board, which have upcoming compliance dates. Implementation of these regulations will include significant outreach, compliance assistance, permitting, inspections, testing and monitoring, plan and report review, and reporting as well. The district will also continue to build on efforts over the past few years to identify and advance alternatives to open burning of agricultural material. We are currently in the process of implementing the board-adopted and CARB-approved strategy, establishing the final framework for the phase-out of agricultural open burning in the Valley. Significant work will be necessary in the next fiscal year to work with stakeholders to implement and enforce the strategy, which prioritizes near-term emission reductions while taking into account the feasibility of alternatives across different crop types and categories. The district will also be working hard over the next fiscal year to work with land management agencies to increase the use of prescribed fire and other fuel reduction efforts to reduce the frequency and magnitude of wildfires that impact the Valley. As the public's desire for air quality information continues to grow, the district will be continuing to look for ways to enhance our public outreach and education strategies, including our public-facing air quality tools. It is also important to keep the district's Healthy Air Living Schools program fresh and relevant to the needs of schools throughout the Valley. We are currently working with our program partners and will be reevaluating the program, including new factors and opportunities that are facing schools, including the response to wildfire smoke and understanding the opportunities and challenges around air filtration systems in schools. The district will further develop a collaborative partnership with Valley public health directors and officers, including a partnership in the San Joaquin Valley Public Health Consortium. The district will work to leverage this relationship to convey health messaging more broadly to Valley residents. As the board has continued to enhance the district's residential wood burning reduction strategy, we have seen behaviors regarding wood burning to evolve. It is important that the district's outreach strategies around residential wood burning continue to evolve as well and stay current with the board's direction on the program. As such, during the next year, the district will be evaluating the current approach and making changes as necessary. In the coming year, the district is planning to host an air quality symposium to focus on current issues and challenges facing the Valley and to help plan a strategic path forward. The last PM 2.5 focus symposium was held back in 2010, which focused specifically on particulate matter pollution in the Valley, sources that contribute to PM, and public health impacts. Given the significant progress in reducing emissions across the Valley since that time, and in light of a potential new federal PM 2.5 standard being finalized soon, holding another symposium on current and remaining sources of PM 2.5 and their impact on public health will assist in planning for future air quality strategies for the region. In recent years, the frequency and severity of cybersecurity threats have increased significantly, and the district is focusing on solidifying our already strong security posture by bringing in the latest technologies and measures for the security of our IT infrastructure. These efforts are critical as we strive to increase the productivity of district staff and deliver the highest levels of customer service for district stakeholders, which often involve the development and deployment of new technology solutions. And consistent with the board's priorities in support of our attainment efforts, the district will be working to design, oversee, and or partner in the execution of research studies across many different areas in the next year. These areas include in support of studies to better understand the public health changes and impacts associated with the continued air quality improvement efforts, changing PM 2.5 source apportionment, local emission inventories and sources contributing to local air quality issues to assist in building effective air quality improvement strategies in the Valley's AB 617 and other communities, the feasibility of potential measures to reduce dust from fallowed lands due to implementation of SGMA, as well as enhanced conservation management practices, impacts of local air quality and health on Valley residents during wildfire events, technology development and demonstration programs to advance deployment of new options and methods to dispose of agricultural woody waste in ways that are different than historic open burning practices. And then also the nature of mobile source emissions, particularly heavy duty emission vehicles, to help refine the understanding of the Valley's pass-through truck traffic emissions and aid in the development of state and federal mobile source control strategies. And then lastly, on focusing on the nexus between air quality and climate change to identify co-beneficial opportunities to reduce both criteria air pollutants and greenhouse gases. I will now turn the presentation over to Ryan Hayashi, who will discuss the efficiency and streamlining measures that will be deployed to aid in addressing this significant projected workload.
Right. Thank you, Morgan, and good morning, Chairman and members of the board. Ryan Hayashi, Deputy Air Pollution Control Officer. And today I have the pleasure of sharing with you some of the efficiency and customer service focused efforts the district has and will be implementing to continue to address the high volume of existing and new workload previously discussed, all while ensuring we continue to provide the highest level of customer service that your board has established for this agency. The management team under your board's direction has spent considerable time and effort promoting our STAR work culture, resulting in an extremely positive working environment where employees show significant ownership over the programs they work in and the organization as a whole. This is seen through the thousands of employee suggestions for improvement that have been received and implemented, resulting in a collaborative and solution-oriented workforce. Training is the key in all of our efficiency. Sorry about that. Training is the key of all of our efficiency efforts, and towards that end, staff receive advanced cross-training within and outside of their departments, allowing for maximum flexibility to be able to handle ever-changing and cyclical workloads. The district also strategically uses temporary staffing, which allows us to reduce costs, minimize overtime, and to address fluctuating workloads. The district has increased efforts to operate paperlessly across all departments, including internal paperless processing workflows and scanning all hard copies of documents and developing resources to identify and locate records more quickly. The district recently transitioned to using new public records request software, which has significantly streamlined work processes and improved and simplified tracking mechanisms to ensure all requests are being properly addressed. In addition to the new public records request system, the district continues to expand the already extensive public information available on the internet site and recently met a new state mandate to provide the ability to view permits online. We are also in the process of incorporating new meeting agenda management software that will offer more resources for members of the public while also providing numerous streamlining efficiencies that will save significant staff time and resources to complete required tasks. Additionally, transitioning to electronic processing of the majority of district documents such as requisitions, claims for payments, permit applications, hearing board packets, and public notice packages has also reduced processing and handling times. Over the last several years, the district has devoted significant resources to improve and expand our community engagement efforts. As part of these efforts, especially as part of implementing the AB 670 Community Air Protection Program, numerous engagement tools have been used to facilitate and improve community discussion and increase engagement by allowing a more interactive process. Communication with our stakeholders is essential, and we continue to look for ways to better outreach and engage with the public, including working with the district's Environmental Justice Advisory Group, enhancing the district's website, strategic use of social media, and most recently through the use of new public notification software to manage the district's numerous email lists, which has simplified the process for signing up for notifications of meetings, workshops, and other public events, all with the focus of making information more accessible to a greater audience. The new delivery software also offers the ability to send text notifications, and the district is currently exploring ways in which to use this to further enhance the services we provide. The district's community engagement efforts have involved considerable need for interpretation and translation services in order to provide access to district services. To address this need, the district developed policies and procedures for the translation of key documents into additional languages and provided trained translators for the public meetings where there is expected to be limited English participants. While being able to expend hundreds of millions of dollars in grant funding each year sounds simple, in actuality, it requires constant program evaluation to search for and find additional opportunities to refine and improve processes. The grant team has developed and implemented several such measures and are pursuing additional ones, including continually making improvements to the district's grant management system, the in-house developed software that manages all grants processed, including enhancements to internal controls and project monitoring and streamlined claim processing for faster payment to applicants. Internally developing online web portals for parties to submit grant applications for programs, including alternatives to ag burn, drive clean in San Joaquin, tractor replacement, fireplace and wood stove changeout, and currently in development, the Valley-wide Clean Air Room program. These portals allow for immediate data validation and also automatically upload the data directly into the grants program, saving us time and resources. Customer experience is also very important, and for this reason, the district developed a grant application portal, which allows users the ability to view all applications they have submitted, the current status of the projects, and the ability to submit required reports. They continue to work closely with CARB to reduce administrative requirements under the Farmer, Carl Moyer, and Community Air Protection programs, and they look to develop new grant program guidelines and materials to ensure diverse grant programs through which to expand existing and new funding sources, with the district often piloting programs that have then been used as the model for similar programs across the state and the nation. To ensure the quality and accuracy of the nearly 50 air monitoring stations across the valley, the air monitoring team has developed several new measures to increase data availability and decrease maintenance need, including the replacement of air monitoring equipment with the newest models that incorporate remote connection capabilities and provide the ability to remotely run diagnostic checks, update configurations, and evaluate equipment parameters, reducing the need for site visits and ensuring timely completion of equipment repairs. They've transitioned from filter-based PM monitors to real-time units, which require less resources to operate, benefiting the forecasting analysis team and the public by having real-time data versus data that would come later. New data acquisition systems and remote control setup at monitoring stations that allows for increased control and automation of station tasks. And they are continuing to deploy security cameras at monitoring sites and mobile equipment to enhance the protection of key assets and provide valuable imagery of surrounding conditions during periods of unusual data. The district's air quality analysis team has developed a new automated air quality data monitoring management system that has significantly reduced the time required to perform quality assurance and quality control of air quality data. They've worked closely with CARB to enhance a statewide system that issues weather forecasts and approvals for prescribed burn projects by also incorporating a module for the submittal and approval of smoke management plans for burn projects. They also utilize a state-of-the-art modeling system, which allows the district to process a high number of attainment strategies effectively and efficiently while reducing our dependence on CARB for modeling support, which will be needed to support the district's development of the 2023 plan for the 2012 PM 2.5 standard. The district's finance team continues to look for creative solutions that enhance customer service while also streamlining staff responsibilities, including enhancements to the district's online portal for businesses and residents, which now allows the facilities to view outstanding invoices and to make payments via credit cards, debit cards, and e-checks. They're continuing to develop and refine electronic processes for accounts payable, grants claims and payments, payroll, and other finance-related transactions. Recent efforts have focused on significantly reducing grant claim reimbursement timeframes. The district's new payroll administrator provides additional customization features, increasing process efficiency and improving data integrity. And as Samir mentioned, following our green procurement policy, the district continues to transition its fleet to electric vehicles and setting the bar for other agencies across the state and nation. The district relies heavily on IT solutions to provide essential services to Valley stakeholders and district staff. Some of the efficiency measures instituted in development include use of re-engineering tools to help upgrade the district's proprietary software, saving hundreds of hours of staff time, upgrade the district's IT infrastructure, reducing the amount of hardware needed to be maintained and increasing reliability of all IT systems, enhance the backup system for district network into smaller systems to reduce time needed for backing up data and decreasing the chance of backup failure, working to expand geographic information systems tools to view and understand data and manage various programs related to permits, compliance, grants, and incentives, and upgraded firewalls and routers to the district data centers to provide greater security and reducing the risk of downtime and impacts to operations. The primary goal of the district's enforcement program is to be in the field, conducting tens of thousands of inspections and complaint investigations each year. In order to be able to complete this work, constant evaluation of existing processes must be performed and improvement actions taken. Recently, the district has implemented such measures, including the development of online and smartphone complaint portal system, which allows the reporting party the ability to upload photos and videos directly into our systems. And then the reporting parties also receive notifications from that it's been received and that it's being worked on. And then once the investigation is completed, they also get a report out to them. The district has developed additional paperless processes allowing staff to complete and upload inspection reports directly when they're out in the field. We have paperless processing of dust control plans and asbestos notification records, and are currently in process of developing online portals to allow them to directly submit those forms to the district, and allows for data completeness and validation checks, saving us staff time. We transitioned GPS service provider for district vehicles, which has provided better tracking of vehicles, allowing for quicker complaint response times and better reporting options to assess staff effectiveness and efficiency. And we directly upload photographs and inspection reports into the grants program, resulting in faster processing of grant applications. We appreciate that your board has prioritized the purchase and use of the latest in technology, and we have recently purchased new exhaust gas analyzers, forward-looking infrared cameras, and VOC analyzers to ensure regulated equipment are meeting their emissions limits established by permit conditions and district rules. We also extensively use compliance assistance bulletins to help educate Valley residents and businesses regarding district rules. Regularly distribute these bulletins as part of compliance inspections and through email listservs. The Permit Services Department continues to look to develop efficiency and customer service enhancements, including streamlined supplemental application forms for applications and improving engineering evaluation review templates, facilitating the review of those while ensuring all areas are properly addressed, implementing improvements to the district's permit administration system for processing of facility plans, reports, and prioritizations, which improves tracking of the state's criteria, pollutant, and toxics reporting applicability and ensuring accuracy. Developed the criteria, pollutant, and toxics reporting database, which analyzes thousands of data records to determine applicability and establishes the phase-in schedule that Morgan discussed. Updated the emission inventory database to include fields for new state criteria, pollutant, and toxics reporting requirements, and updated facility surveys to ensure required information is obtained. To address the state's AB 2588 Air Toxic Hotspots Information and Assessment Act, the district has developed additional improvements to the district's permitting program to process facility plans, reports, and prioritizations, while ensuring that a facility's hotspot stats will be readily available. They also utilize online surveys of AB 2588 applicability determinations as the state's regulations and guidelines change. They developed a facility-specific questionnaire that automatically pulls facility data to identify needed information by applicants. And they've implemented improved tracking of toxic fee code changes to streamline invoicing and coordination with CARB on pass-through fees. In response to requests from the regulated community and to streamline district processes, the district also developed a user portal for permitted facility operators that allows them to directly upload their emission inventory data into the district's permitting system. Lastly, some of the enhancements to the district's indirect source review program include development of improvements to the indirect source review rule program for processing air impact analyses, launched a new ISR web portal that allows developers to check the status of their pending projects at any time, reducing staff time on phone calls, emails, and meetings. Continue to develop additional features in the ISR web portal, including an application submittal feature, which provides an immediate response to applicants confirming their application has been received, while automatically logging in the project to the district's database, and enhancing the ISR web portal to feature new interfaces and tools that are designed to reduce staff time in determining ISR applicability. So after our extensive zero-based budgeting process, which include analysis of all existing and new workload, and the streamlining and efficiency opportunities identified and implemented and currently being developed, the district is proposing several staff enhancements, with the majority being position reclassifications, which we see as a need to prevent potential bottlenecking from the greater volume of the workload discussed earlier by Morgan. In addition to these reclassifications, we are also recommending a new air quality specialist in the Air Quality Analysis Division to assist in addressing the district's increased Clean Air Act and other mandates. Ryan will be talking about the fiscal impacts of these proposed changes later in the presentation. And at this point, I will turn the presentation over to Shiraz to talk about our incentive-based strategies.
Thank you, Ryan. So I'm going to shift gears here and talk about the district's incentive funding plan with $650 million in funding in this year's budget. First, I will go over the district's incentive-based strategies. One of the major focuses of our programs is to achieve the greatest emission reductions possible through all of our programs, to be expeditious in the funding and in the most cost-effective manner. Your board has always promoted that we be efficient with our incentive funding and that we allow timely access to this funding as well. We have a very large area to cover, 25,000 square miles, and we want to ensure that we conduct equal outreach to all regions of the valley. We also want to provide the best customer service by being flexible with the fund deadlines. We also want to make sure that we get what we call SIP, creditable emission reductions, that whatever reductions we get, they're applied towards our SIP mandates under the Federal Clean Air Act. We also want to make sure that we seek all opportunities to leverage other funds that are available and create as much partnership so we can maximize every single dollar that we spend. As we develop incentive programs, your board has also developed some key factors in distributing funds. Cost effectiveness is one of the main factors and the driving factor in the way we design our programs. So we want to make sure that we get the most reductions possible. It is also important that we understand the inventory of projects that we have in the valley so that we can design the programs efficiently and go after those specific projects. There's also a lot of statutory funding constraints that come with these funding grants, types of projects you could fund, administrative requirements that come with the funding, eligibility requirements, expenditure deadlines, and a bunch of other guidelines that must be met. So we got to make sure we look at all those, check all those boxes. Another key factor is regulatory deadlines. To ensure that the district's incentive programs obtain those SIP creditable emission reductions that I talked about, we have to do this thorough analysis so we can get those credits. Health benefits is another factor that we look at. A good example is our school bus program. It's not the most cost-effective program that we have, but it gets those reductions for the more sensitive individuals, such as children and their exposure to toxic diesel exhaust emissions. Your board has also placed a huge priority in advancing technology, given that we need significant emission reduction in the valley. Through our technology advancement program, we're always looking for those key technologies to get those additional emission reductions that pave way eventually for commercialization, for example, the Pepsi Frito-Lay zero emission project. Your board has also an environmental justice policy in place that prioritizes bringing funds to disadvantaged communities to the extent feasible. We go through a process every year with our Environmental Justice Advisory Group that provide us recommendations on where we should prioritize those funds. And as I go through my slides, you'll see where the EJAG has made those recommendations. The district also conducts strong program outreach valley-wide and uses a variety of approaches to ensure that all of our constituents, businesses, residents, agricultural agencies, and others are aware of our programs. So now I'll briefly go over our incentive spending plan. First, on the community incentive programs, these are targeted at Valley residents. We have about $65 million included in our spending plan. Fireplace Wood Stove Changeout program is a high priority for the Valley. We have $16.7 million in funding here. The Drive Clean, the San Joaquin program is a combination of the vehicle replacements, clean vehicle rebate, and tune-in, tune-up vehicle repair program. We have about $47 million there. Our Clean Green Yard Machine programs, you got to say it slow, otherwise you're going to mess it up, for commercial and residential, which facilitates the transition to zero emissions technology, is funded at $5.7 million, $500,000 respectively. And our VMT reduction, which provides funding for park and ride, bicycle path, e-mobility, is funded with $1 million. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't want to ever stop someone, but the EJAG recommended on 3 of those. Did they not weigh in on the Clean Yard Green Machine and on that component?
Yeah, you know what? I think they probably did, and I may have not included that EJAG recommendation there. So that's something I got to look at, but that is something important to them as well. So I must have just not checked that.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So let's see here. So the heavy duty diesel programs are a huge priority for us. We have over $320 million allocated towards these programs. The Ag Equipment Replacement Program has been an ongoing and very heavily funded, successful program with about $180 million there. The Truck Replacement Program with cleaner trucks, you'll note about $26 million there. The alternative fueling infrastructure, as we see electric, fuel cell, and other cleaner fuels come to the market, we have to make sure that that cleaning infrastructure is available, and the program is funded at $41 million. Electric aggregation pump engine replacement is funded at $3.1 million. Low dust nut harvester equipment replacement to reduce fugitive dust emissions during harvest is funded at $15 million. Emergency vehicle replacement, primarily funding fire trucks, is funded at $1 million. Electric yard trucks at $5.3 million. Electric ag utility vehicles, seeing a great demand in that program. We have $10 million in funding there. And the dairy feed mix electrification, which has been a huge success, is $5 million. School bus replacement funded at $20.6 million. Shifting gears in the spending plan to advanced transportation and vehicles, a variety of programs we offer, a total of about $140 million to the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust. The district is administering a program on a statewide basis. We have about $66 million there. Public benefit grants where we partner with cities and counties and other public agencies to pursue clean transportation projects. We have $10 million there. EV charging infrastructure to advance the EV charging has $5 million there. An advanced technology truck demonstration project, this is the OK Produce project with 40 electric trucks and infrastructure, has about $22 million there. Alternatives to ag open burning, also very successful and important program, $33 million there. About $500,000 in technology advancement programs, very important in advancing technology. And the Wildfire Smoke Cleaner Centers program to prioritize funding for the purchase and deployment of portable air cleaners as at about $370,000. Now, the spending plan also includes your board-approved allocations in the 4 community emission reduction programs of South Central Fresno, Shafter, Stockton, and Arvin Lamont, a total of about $116 million there. I won't go through these in detail. I've talked about a number of them, but there's a variety of programs and community incentives, heavy-duty equipment, community sources, advanced transportation vehicles, and a number of programs that maybe I didn't talk about, vegetative barriers, residential solar, road improvement, under fire char broilers, but a number of programs being funded through these SERPs. And based on that, that summarizes the incentive spending plan and concludes my portion of the presentation. And I will now turn it over to Ryan Buchanan.
Thank you, Shiraz. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. At this point, Ryan Kincaid and I will go over details of the proposed budget and the changes as it compares to last year. First, I'll briefly go over the California Health and Safety Code and District Administrative Code as they pertain to the district's annual budget and the district's operating revenues. Then Ryan Kincaid will explain the operating appropriations, and then I'll provide the non-operating budget at the end. So the district budget process is governed by the California Health and Safety Code. Consistent with state law, the district must hold 2 public hearings as part of the budget process. The draft budget must also be available to the public 30 days prior to the first hearing, and notification must be available or provided to all district fee payers. So the first hearing today, May 18th, is to allow for public comment, and the board is prohibited by law from acting on the budget at this meeting. The second hearing is scheduled for June 15th, where the budget will be presented for adoption to your board. In addition to the Health and Safety Code, the district budget process is governed by the district's administrative code. The district's administrative code requires the APCO to present the recommended budget to your board prior to June 30th. Your board adopts the budget resolution at the object level, except for fixed assets that are controlled at the sub-object level. Object levels for the district budget are salaries and benefits, service and supplies, and fixed assets. Fixed asset capital expenditures are controlled at the sub-object level, as I mentioned, such as computer equipment and automobiles. And your board has left the APCO discretion to transfer budget between accounts. So in your handout, you're provided 4 pages of the budget summary reports. Page 1 provides you with the revenue and appropriation summary. Page 2 provides the revenue details, which include operating revenue on the top section and non-operating revenue on the bottom. Operating appropriations are located on the 3rd page, and non-operating appropriations are summarized on page 4. This chart on the slide gives you a high-level overview of the fiscal year 23-24 budget. So from the 723 million total recommended appropriations, 90% of that, or 650 million, is the non-operating budget, with the remaining 10%, or 72.8 million, representing the district's operating budget. The operating budget is dedicated to the district's internal operating costs for achieving its mission. Operating costs include staffing, service and supplies, and fixed assets. The non-operating budget represents incentives that the district provides in the form of grants for voluntary emission reduction projects. So if you wish to follow along on the budget documents, I'll be going over the operating revenues on the first half of page 2 in your handout, with the focus on the recommended 23-24 budget column towards the middle of the page. The estimated permit fees for fiscal year 23-24 is estimated at $20 million, which is consistent with fiscal year 22-23 budgeted amount. Projected revenues for 23-24 is conservative, estimated based on actual revenues received this year. Section 185 federal non-attainment penalties apply to certain major stationary sources and is estimated to be at about $300,000. Advanced emission reduction option, or AERO fee, is applied to facilities with boilers, steam generators, process heaters, in support of accelerating the deployment of advanced control technologies. We expect to receive about $2.6 million in AERO fees. And due to recent amendments to the Rule 4306, Boilers Phase 3, to further increase the stringency of emission limitations, the district is expecting to receive less AERO fees in fiscal year 23-24 as advanced control technologies developed under AERO are now being required to be implemented under Rule 4306. Interest revenue is expected to be about $2 million. Fresno County Treasury handles the district's fund investments and provides a very competitive interest rate earning. Residential furnaces penalty is estimated to be $200,000 under the district's ongoing implementation of the furnace regulation. The last remaining compliance deadline will be phased in fiscal year 23-24, affecting only a small number of remaining units. Now moving on to the operating grants. These operating grants help the district to maintain air monitoring stations, develop air quality plans, develop rules, support enforcement, permitting, and public outreach. The state subvention, EPA 105, EPA 103 operating grants are all expected to remain the same as prior year. We expect to receive $12.7 million in state AB 617 grants to support the district's implementation of state mandates under AB 617, and this funding is included in the state's current approved budget. Next, DMV fees used for operating costs, which are estimated to be at $13.6 million. These fees are collected based on the registered vehicles that are operating within the San Joaquin Valley. Grant administrative funds earned is estimated at $10 million. These fees are received when state and federal government, from the state and federal government on the non-operating side, then reimbursed to the operating side for costs associated with incentive program administration, such as Farmer, Community Air Protection, Moyer, and other grants. Every year, the district transfers money from the operating to the non-operating budget to fund emission reduction projects. And this recommended budget includes a transfer of $5 million to support incentive program implementation. This budget includes the use of $11.1 million of district fund balance. And now Ryan Kincaid will take you through the operating appropriations.
Thank you, Ryan Buchanan. I'm Ryan Kincaid, controller here at the district. Good morning, Chair and board members. As Ryan Buchanan mentioned, I'll be talking about the operating appropriations in this year's budget, located on the third page in your handout. This slide summarizes the changes in the operating budget at the object level. If you refer to the handout, the numbers I'm showing here are the budget to budget column on the right hand side of the page. And this column shows the difference between last year's adjusted budget to this year's recommended budget for each account, with a subtotal at the bottom for each object level. The slide is showing the budget to budget comparison for the total of the three object levels in the operating budget. The proposed operating budget shows a 1% increase compared to last year's adjusted budget. As you can see from the slide in your handout, salaries and benefits in total are up about 1.1 million. Service and supplies are up approximately 160,000, and fixed assets are down approximately 500,000. In the next few slides, we'll go over the changes in each of those object levels in more detail. The district salaries and benefits expenditures in the recommended budget total 59 million and make up 81% of the overall operating budget. This slide details the changes from last year's adjusted budget for salaries and benefits at the object level. So these are just the changes here. The changes to salaries and benefit line items reflect the implementation of the third year of the labor agreement for staff, a full year appropriations for new and enhanced positions approved by your board in fiscal 22-23, as well as proposed staffing enhancements in this year's recommended budget. This I'll be discussing in more detail on next slide. In addition to the factors I mentioned, regular salaries also reflects projected merit step increases for existing staff. The next line represents the district's temporary help for situations where work and or funding are short-term in nature. Most temporary help is used to support the district's incentive programs. Overtime represents hourly estimates which are based on the departmental needs and established deadlines which will require overtime for the completion of key assignments. The unemployment account decreased by 5,900 from the prior year's adjusted budget. The next line describes the changes to the district's retirement costs. The change here reflects a slight increase in retirement costs of approximately 1% or 209,000. The increase in retirement costs is being partially offset by the decrease in the district's retirement rate, resulting from the measures implemented by your board over the past few years. Workers' compensation expenses reflect an increase of 2% or approximately 8,000. The district continues to participate in proactive risk management and loss prevention programs, which has resulted in keeping the workers' comp rates low. There is a $23,000 increase for cafeteria plan benefits, which is related to staffing adjustments included in the budget. The following line for long-term disability insurance is reflecting a $5,500 increase, resulting from a 4% increase in the insurance rate. Lastly, there's a slight decrease in OASDI and alternative transportation incentive. Let's see, and all right, fiscal impact of position changes. This slide outlines the fiscal impact for the position changes proposed for the upcoming year, as previously outlined by Ryan Hayashi. The fiscal impact for these positions is roughly $233,000 for the 23-24 fiscal year. Okay. All right, so services and supplies. Overall, services and supplies are up 2% compared to the 22-23 adjusted budget. Many of these accounts can see significant year-to-year variations, and on this slide, I'll be explaining those accounts which have had significant changes. Telephone charges for a total of $178,000 is up approximately 13% or $20,000. This increase reflects the increased needs for dedicated internet lines for increased functionality, reduced downtime, and better efficiencies. Insurance for a total of $868,000 is up 13% or $98,000. This increase is due to the district acquiring more vehicles and air monitoring equipment in the current fiscal year in support of the district's air quality programs. Equipment maintenance, $301,000 total, is up 13%. This account is to ensure that adequate funds are available for maintaining operational and compliance equipment. Vehicle maintenance and operations is up 34%. And this increase is mainly due to the maintenance requirements of aging vehicles that we have and the recent increases in gas prices. As the district continues to transition to a full electric fleet, we should see decreases in the near future in this account. Computer maintenance for approximately $1 million is increased 15%. This account represents preventative maintenance necessary to ensure software and hardware are up to date to support the district's operations and new technology solutions. Building maintenance and operations for a total of $367,000. This account is used for maintaining clean and safe workplaces, and due to inflation and additional services needed, there's an increase in this account of 15%. Printing. The printing is up 16%. The district uses successful initiatives in informing the public and stakeholders of the district's presence within the community through calendars, mail-outs, and signs. The increase is due to the district's efforts in supporting and implementing new grant programs and state mandates. Special district expense, a total of $192,000 this year, is down 67%. The decrease in this account is due to one-time settlement paid by the district in last fiscal year, or fiscal 22-23. Utilities total $448,000, is up approximately 18%. This increase in this account is due to increased rates from utility companies for both electric and gas for all regions. Legal services is up $228,000 this year. The increase represents ongoing and anticipated legal costs. All right, professional specialized services. This slide highlights the district's largest service and supplies account, professional specialized services, with a recommended budget of $2.7 million. This is where you'll find the majority of our service contract agreements and tends to vary, sometimes significantly, due to the normal fluctuations that occur as scheduled projects begin and come to a close. This slide lists the costs associated with those items, which together make up the majority of the amount budgeted in the next fiscal year. The complete detail of this professional specialized service account is included on your handout starting on page 7. So I'm going to be talking about some of the largest ones. Multilingual marketing and outreach contract for $878,000. This represents a comprehensive multimedia marketing responsible for the district's highly successful education outreach campaign. The outreach is designed to generate public interest and to support our air quality improvement programs and thereby affect meaningful change in public behavior. Public engagement services for AB 617. So as discussed previously, the district continues to work with selected communities in the Valley to prepare and attend community steering committee meetings. The recommended budget includes $670,000 to provide the level of support needed to implement effective public engagement for communities under AB 617. Next, we have $200,000 budgeted for Valley air quality research. This is to help inform strategy development. Community outreach services for AB 617 for $167,000. This represents resources to provide the necessary outreach services in support of AB 617, including interpretation, document translation, marketing of programs, outreach, mini grants, and supporting public events. Socioeconomic analysis for rural development. Consistent with your board's direction, the district evaluates the potential economic impacts of rules as they are being developed to ensure thoughtful and complete deliberation of what can be very costly regulations. The budget contains $100,000 included for that purpose. All right, next we'll take a look at our capital spending. Like our professional specialized service account, the capital accounts or fixed assets do sometimes significantly vary due to the normal progression of various projects that begin and end from one year to the next. As illustrated on page 3 of the budget report handout, our total fixed assets are showing a $568,000 decrease compared to last year's adjusted budget. As I did with services and supplies, I'll go over the accounts that are experiencing the most significant changes from previous year's adjusted budget to this year's recommended. Facilities and equipment, for a total of $260,000 is up $181,000. And this account represents necessary improvements to the district's offices and is budgeted to make sure necessary operations such as HVAC units are maintained properly. The computer equipment account has increased $303,000, and current projects budgeted for this next year include general replacement computer equipment of $604,000 and co-location multi-site redundancy of district public services to prevent service interruption for $280,000. The change to the automobile account reflects scheduled replacement of existing high mileage vehicles. Due to the aggressive efforts over the past few years to transition district fleet to electric where feasible, the number of vehicles scheduled for replacement for fiscal year 23-24 is lower compared to prior years. The district continues to analyze infrastructure deployment and technology development as we evaluate the feasibility and timing associated with the continued implementation of the district's zero-emission fleet transition. Video teleconferencing decreased by $1 million. The decrease in this account is a result of a one-time expense in last year's budget to update the district's video teleconferencing hardware and system. Lastly, air monitoring station equipment increased by $141,000. This account varies from year to year depending on program needs, and the majority of these appropriations are used to support AB 617 community monitoring and refinery air monitoring. That concludes my presentation on the recommended operating expenditure budget. I'll turn it over to Ryan Buchanan for the non-operating revenue.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. So this slide here summarizes the non-operating budget in a table. So much like what Shiraz presented on earlier, that was more of the program base. This will summarize kind of the funding basis behind this. So the first column on the from the left lists all the estimated revenue or reserves of $346 million. The second or middle column provides detail of new revenue totaling $303 million, which together fund over $650 million in the 2023-24 non-operating budget. The district non-operating revenues tend to vary substantially year over year, depending on the availability of the funding. Each one of these funding sources have significant requirements on how and what types of projects they could be used for. I will go over the non-operating revenues as Shiraz has explained the non-operating spending plan in detail. The first line is the pass-through portion of the air tax fees collected by the district on behalf of the state and send them annually, estimated at $230,000. DMV surcharge fees is expected to be at $49 million. These funds are used for a wide variety of district emission reduction incentives, such as the district public benefits grants, tune-in, tune-up program, truck replacement, ag equipment replacement, and the technology advancement program. The district's revenue for the Carl Moyer program is at $19 million. Voluntary emission reduction agreement and indirect source revenues mitigation fees is estimated to be at $20.9 million. These fees are provided by project proponents who ask the district for assistance with mitigating air quality impacts for ISR or CEQA purposes. The district will receive about $43.6 million in federal DERA, Target Airshed, and other federally funded emission reduction programs, which were awarded to the district for the replacement of residential wood burning devices, ag tractors, low dust nut harvesting equipment, and technology advancement projects. Non-operating interest is estimated to be at $12 million. This is the interest earned on the state and federal funds and varies depending on the balance and the timing of these funds will be received and spent. These funds are spent on emission reduction projects in accordance with each program's requirements and guidelines. So basically the interest follows the principal. As mentioned earlier, $5 million of operating funds are transferred to the non-operating budget to be spent on emission reduction projects. And you see two lines of administrative revenue listed here. One is the administrative fees received from the state and federal government to fund administrative costs of the grants and incentives. These funds may apply to more than 1 year, so unused portion is banked in the reserve accounts. And we anticipate to receive about $11.3 million in new administrative fees. The administrative fees are earned when the district spends time and resources on administration of these programs. The district anticipates earning $10 million in administrative fees in the fiscal year 23-24, which will be transferred to the general fund. And based on already approved state allocations, we expect to receive over $110.4 million in ARB cap and trade revenues. These grants will be used for replacement of heavy and light duty vehicles, truck and ag equipment replacement, and purchasing of electric buses. Volkswagen mitigation revenue is expected to be at $28.9 million. And so lastly, this proposed balanced budget includes adequate reserves and contingencies as listed here. These reserves are listed at the bottom of the first page of your handout. And based on your board's approved policy of funding the general reserve at 20% of the district's operating appropriations, the reserve will be set at $14.6 million. The computer and VTC equipment reserve is increasing by $200,000 for future replacement of district VTC and computer equipment. The district's building improvement reserve is increasing by $200,000 to $1.2 million in support of future projects such as installation of solar panels in the central office. And to provide necessary funding for future replacement of the district's state-of-the-art modeling center, the district has been setting aside funding in the designated reserve for the future replacement of aging modeling equipment necessary to support the Valley's Clean Air Act attainment efforts, which are proposed no change in this current reserve or this reserve currently. The district is also proposing an additional $50,000 to the monitoring equipment reserve to continue to support the maintenance and enhancement of the monitoring stations around the Valley in order to provide accurate and real-time air quality data to Valley residences and businesses. Your governing board has established a pension stabilization reserve fund, and following your board's established policy, the recommended budget includes setting aside the required amount of $900,000, bringing the total reserve to $6.3 million. In the past years, in addition to the above-mentioned reserves, this budget contains $850,000 appropriation for contingency. In the event that the district needs to use the contingency funds or any of the reserves mentioned, your board will need to amend the budget to move these funds to the appropriate budgetary accounts. And this concludes my presentation, and I'll now turn it back to Samir for his final comments.
So thank you. Just wanted to recognize the team for, again, this year putting together quite a bit of work. I think that might be an understatement on just pulling the budget together. And I also want to thank the board again, subcommittee, but also just throughout the year. What you see in the budget is really a reflection of the priorities and conversations that happen leading to this moment. So just for the sake of time, I'll keep my closing comments short and turn it back to you, Mr. Chair and board, for any comments or questions you may have, and then clear back to the public as well for any comments.
That is perfect. And Ryan and Morgan, Shiraz, Ryan and Ryan, thank you very much. That was very in-depth. And I just want to remind everyone before we get to questions from board members, this is a public hearing, and the public will have an opportunity to comment on this. I always think of budgets as a roadmap, and they're living and breathing documents, especially on the non-operating side, because we want that number not to be $650 million. We want it to be $1 billion. And that always has an effect because of the administrative portion that potentially we have to hire people if we were to receive a lot more money to operate the program. So again, this is a great roadmap. I had just a couple of quick questions. First of all, I noticed that there was only $100 in the furniture, and we need new chairs. So we're gonna up that just for these chairs.
I don't know if we want them to be too good because we might have went to sleep.
No.
Mr. Chair, quick response. We think we can accommodate some enhancements in this year's budget too. So just note that on that. But.
So on the contingency component, the $850,000, typically that is we're board members get worried. Does it require a supermajority to remove funds from the contingency, or is it a simple majority?
It's, it would just be a majority. It would be a budget revision, which, would basically just be a affirmative vote of the board, but through a
And
majority.
can someone tell me how we've done on using contingencies the last couple of years? Just as a
It's rare.
rare.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does come up from time to time, but is there really for contingency?
Those
not for anticipated things. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. And again, before we go any further, I want to thank the folks on the committee. It's again, same type of presentation, although it's a little more interactive during the process, but you don't want to serve on that every year because it's pretty intense, looking through all of these. All right, so I'm going to go to board members if they have any questions. And for the new board members, if you press your button, it'll show up here for me so I can call on you. And if not, we'll go to the public. Okay, Vice Chair Lewis.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the staff for the wonderful job you did. I have a question on page 47 of the incentive spending plan. Under the Clean Green Yard Machine commercial, the 5.7 million, when a contractor applies for this fund, are they only allowed to apply for it one time, or can they apply for each fiscal year? Or how does that work in order for them to convert all of their equipment from combustion to green?
That's a great question. I'll take the first shot. Shiraz, feel free to add if I miss any details on this one. So first of all, we were able to secure, I think, half the state's funding that was available for this particular program. So that's what a big chunk of this funding is. Just on that side of things, it was a great success on that. The board recently did take a look at making some key changes to this program that included, I think, raising some caps, raising some funding levels on a per equipment basis. We're actually in the process of relaunching this program with this new funding that includes looking at issues like you just mentioned. So that's going to happen probably over the next month or so. So we'll keep the board posted on that. In fact, we'll send information out because I think one of the great opportunities with this program is going to be the city and the county, sort of like parks and other sort of grounds maintenance type fleets. And so I can get more information out to the board on exactly what those caps are and how it works. But I definitely want this program to not have more barriers than it needs to have. We want it to be, it's a healthy amount of funding. We want a significant uptake in the program, show a lot of demand, and then that way we can keep advocating for more funding as well. So I don't have that detail right in front of me exactly as to what that number is, but we'll get that out to the board and update you on sort of what the new version of the program looks like. Because it's going to be a scale bigger than it has been in the past. We're excited about that.
So does that also include how often they'll be able to apply?
It does. If there's an annual cap, but potentially, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But again, I don't want that to, be too much of a barrier to
Sure.
getting the early takers into the program. So
Okay.
we'll
Thank
get
you.
back to you with more information on that.
Yeah, Member Preciado.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. It's on page 57. It's just a percentage question. At the bottom for legal services, is that the actual percentage, 538%? Or is that actually 53.8? And that's for Mr. Kincaid, probably?
Yeah, that's the actual percentage that we have increasing it. So it went up pretty significant. Let's see.
That's another way of saying that we generally budgeted very little. And so now there's just anticipating some needs down the road. It's budgeted a bit higher. So but the base level is very, very small. That's why it's up that much.
And just to clarify the percentage.
Yeah. Last year was 42,000.
Member Mendez.
Yeah, some years I've actually timed, you speaking. And one year you actually talked for 50 minutes. But I didn't do it this year, but I think you're totally maybe under 15 minutes, totally got the thing condensed, that much better. I mean, the more you guys do this, the better you get. And I think the leadership team, this is the second or third year you've done it together.
Yeah, it's probably getting closer to 5 or 6 on
Yeah.
this particular combination of team. Yeah, but no, thank you for that. We're trying to be more
No, you-
efficient
a
and
little bit
streamlined.
more
You heard
efficient.
that theme a little bit, but
And,
while also getting the information out, right? So
Right.
thank you.
and the legal costs were for outside counsel?
Right,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Yeah, okay. If people didn't sue us, we'd be in good shape, see?
Dr. Sheriff?
Thank you, and thanks to the staff for the presentation. I would just observe that, the challenges are great, but the extraordinarily strong and creative response and the fiscal responsibility demonstrated by the staff here and the multiple levels of collaboration that have led to terrific success. That said, despite all of this effort and despite all of this success, it is absolutely not getting any easier. And it's not going to get any easier. The air quality today is unhealthy for sensitive groups. And that's most of us. That is unfortunately most of us. Older people, younger people, people with health conditions like diabetes, asthma. So great success, great challenges ahead. Of course, I'm glad to see an elevation in this budget, I think, of the recognition of the nexus and the opportunity, looking at taking advantage of waste impact climate change and how that has a positive effect again and again on these air quality changes, and how both of those are so important to health for the residents of the valley. So thank you for that work. I won't say that you made budget sound exciting, and but it's so important to be digging in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess the paint was a glossy finish.
Member Shuckling.
Budgets aren't that exciting, but all the programs that are in here and what we've done. And I want to thank the committee. I know when I was on the committee, it really gave me a bigger understanding of all that we do. And it's nice to have this review. And one other question, I'm just wondering, how many more Ryans do we have working here? A lot? Is it just, I had a question for Ryan, but I won't say which one. Thank you, guys.
And if the 2 new members are wondering how you get on the committee, you'll figure it out next year when your names appear. So, all right, if there's no other comments from the board, we are going to go to the public.
Thank you. Are there any public comments from the South?
No public comments in the South.
Thank you. Are there any public comments in the North?
No public comments in the North.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in the central office that would like to comment? Looks like we have one coming up.
Good morning.
Good morning, Manuel Cunha, President East State Farmers League. Thank you very much, board, staff, Samir, your team, everybody. The first thing is I want to acknowledge the staff, Aaron and Todd and even Ryan Hayashi. So I made sure I got the right Ryan correct. For all the work you've done in preparing for agriculture for the farmers program. You've done one heck of a job, and continuing by getting there by December of this year, we have to meet that 11 tons. And so the future funding will even be important of what the governor does. The part that I want to make a point of is incentives. The incentives are good for our businesses, but it's like when the governor takes the money away immediately from the process of incentives to help businesses. What do? What do they plan? Because I think the annual cap, for example, on the green machines, many of the landscape maintenance people can't just go out and buy everything tomorrow. It takes them a period of time. So suddenly we get that money stripped away and we have a program. So the air quality benefits of this $700 million, and I remember we said we weren't going to get over 300 million total, I think. And here we are at 700 million. And on top of that, is what part of that is the contribution from the public and from the business sector? Just like the farmers have given their 50%, 60% even into that incentive funds. But the ag burn is the one that I'm really concerned about. And I hope that we can keep that program going to help, because of the flooding that is occurring and the damage that's going to increase. The farms across, at least on the west side, will be huge. And the purpose of that issue is because of disease and insects and those other things that take place after when you have to lose your vines or trees. So I hope that we can continue that effort of getting the funds from California, from the governor, to help the continual ag burn. But again, board, you've done one heck of a job. It'd be great, Dr. Sheriff, to see of what we did and how many tons of all of these dollars incentives have been created and worked on by everybody to get, and look at what the cost is of reducing those emissions have tremendously. You could see the mountains today, and it's all because of those efforts that the staff and the board have done. But again, thank you, Samir, and your team, and Aaron and Todd. Thank you very much for all the tractor program work you guys have done to help our farmers and small farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel.
Thank you. We have a few online comments. The first one, Janet Dietzkame.
Good morning, Janet.
Good morning to chairs, board, and staff. Obviously, without the report at hand, this was overwhelming information. So I will just address a few of the things that are important to me. PM 2.5, have been having dangerous days in May where I had to use my mask. Thousands of us are affected by the air, even at only the upper moderate levels. I have received many warnings last week and this week regarding the air, some of which is ozone. Rain did help us with having better air this winter. It helped tremendously. I was able to go out during those rainy days. Residential burning remains the same problem. Daytime report, I was successfully enforced. Other reports at night were not. School buses, I am so pleased that we are putting electric school buses. The diesel fumes that the students are exposed to while boarding the buses at the end of the day is especially awful. I have been there to pick up children, and that is a very important program. AB 617 is extremely important. We have the inclusion of the people who are identifying areas of very unhealthy air in their locations. Residents are able to bring focus on the particular pollution that contributes to their area and are able to help in coming up with resolutions on how to solve this problem. The monitoring in those areas is exceedingly important. I use battery operated hedge clippers and other items, including a lawnmower. Battery operated is very available now in Lowe's, Home Depot, etc. Infrastructure charging stations are critical to interesting people in EVs. People are afraid to go very far without having the supportive infrastructure. Thank you for increasing more infrastructure, especially at your location. These are a few of the things that I was impressed with as I heard the report. Very interesting report, very inclusive report, lots and lots of work. I appreciate all of it. And please remember, your title is Air Pollution Control. Your focus is air pollution control, no matter what. That is where we put our energy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Janet.
Next, we have Connie Young.
Morning, Connie.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Connie Young, Fresno resident, retired registered nurse and volunteer with Citizens Climate Lobby, also known as CCL. As always, this was an excellent presentation that represents considerable time and effort. Thank you. Regarding the funding for comprehensive strategy aimed at reducing wildfire emissions through the use of prescribed burning and other land management practices, I would encourage you to pay as much attention to climate change as well, since it is a significant factor contributing to conditions that produce wildfires. The report also mentions public education campaigns to raise awareness of the damage to public health due to wildfires. I'd suggest including education about the role of climate change in wildfires. A better informed public will be more likely to demand and support local, state, and federal actions in response to climate disruption. I'm pleased to see that you intend to partner on the climate air quality initiatives in the Inflation Reduction Act, and I hope you will encourage our elected representatives to protect those initiatives. Lastly, I applaud your plan to transition the district fleet to zero-emission vehicles. Thank you.
Connie, I saw lots of smiles from staff when you said getting new vehicles. So thanks for your comments.
No further comments online.
All right, no further comments online. And so there is no action. And this is continued to June 15th, where it will be adopted. Very good. Okay, so we're going to close the public hearing. I have to move my papers around here. If you'll bear with me. Okay, so now we're going to open up the governing board regular meeting for today, May 18th.
I'm sorry, through the chair, before we do have on the special hearing, one more item on the agenda, number 6, public comment for items not on the agenda, as well as adjourning that meeting before moving.
Okay.
So I apologize for the
No,
technicality.
I apologize because it actually is there, so I should be apologizing. Okay, so any comments on items that are not on the agenda?
Do we have any public comments in the south?
No public comment in the south.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments in the north?
There are no public comments in the north.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in the central office that would like to speak? No. We do have one public commenter online, Janet Dietz-Kamay.
Welcome back, Janet.
Thank you. How do we know climate change is real? There's unequivocal evidence that Earth is warming up at an unprecedented rate. Human activity is the principal cause. The rate of change since the mid-20th century is unprecedented over millennia. Earth's climate has changed throughout history. Just in the last 800,000 years, there have been 8 cycles of ice ages and warmer periods, with the end of the last ice age about 11,700 years ago, marking the beginning of the modern climate era and of human civilization. Most of these climate changes are attributed to very small variations in Earth's orbit that change the amount of solar energy our planet receives. The current warming trend is different because it is clearly the result of human activities since the mid-1800s and is proceeding at a rate not seen over many recent millennia. It is undeniable that human activities have produced the atmospheric gases that have trapped more of the sun's energy in the Earth's ecosystem. This extra energy has warmed the atmosphere, ocean, and land, and widespread and rapid changes in the atmosphere, ocean, cryosphere, and biosphere have occurred. Earth orbiting satellites and new technologies have helped scientists see the big picture, collecting many different types of information about our planet and its climate all over the world. These data, collected over many years, reveal the signs and patterns of a changing climate. Scientists demonstrated that heat-trapping nature of carbon dioxide and other gases in the mid-19th century. Many of the science instruments NASA uses to study our climate focuses on how these gases affect the movement of infrared radiation through the atmosphere. From the measured impacts of increases in these gases, There is no question that increased greenhouse gas levels warm Earth in response. Ice cores drawn from Greenland, Antarctica, and tropical mountain glaciers show that Earth's climate responds to changes in greenhouse gas levels. Ancient evidence can also be found in tree rings, ocean sediments, coral reefs, and layers of sedimentary rocks. This ancient or paleoclimate evidence reveals that current warming is occurring roughly 10 times faster than the average rate of warming after an ice age. Carbon dioxide from human activities is increasing about 250 times faster than it did from natural sources after the last ice age. This needs our absolute attention. Thank you.
There are no further comments online.